Hey, what's up guys? It's DJ Troy 23 back with another YouTube video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on all my future videos, and be sure to subscribe to my Patreon account too, at DJ Troy 23. Today we're going to be talking about something that's very near and dear to me. It's basically my namesake. We're going to be talking about DJing today. It's going to be a lot of different things, a little bit of music theory, a little bit of what it is to be DJing and the origins of my personal DJing experience and what I've gone through just to lead up to this point. I also want to show some of the elements of what comes with DJing. So today I'll just be showing a quick little not on demo of what's going on the Pioneer DDJ 6 or 200, no, DDJ 200, sorry. I've dealt with Pioneer for a lot, so they have a lot of different lines, but this is a smart DJ controller, easy to get, easy to afford. I think it's around 150 to 200 bucks on either eBay, or you can either look on Guitar Center. I usually work with Guitar Center a lot for a lot of my music equipment, just because of the prices. And a lot of times when people think of buying equipment, you think of getting the full price. You can get it for a deal, trust me. It depends on the year, model, and what you look for in the elements of your stuff. So just to start off, how I got started into DJing, it was more so that, I've always been involved with music. I've always been part of a musical family, mostly from church, I would say. My mom and dad were heavily involved in the church and used to sing a lot of, hymns and everything like that. So I grew up with a very strong foundation in gospel music. And then with that, I didn't really hear hip hop or anything during the 90s outside of that because of, the structure inside my household. So it was a lot of gospel music, jazz, classical music. I was enjoying a lot, going to music class back in the day. It was from that I mostly, and Radio Disney. Back when Radio Disney was 24/7 to me. So a lot of pop, a lot of elements at first, but it is weird at first because I never really took hold to DJing being something that I could get involved into. It was more so just me watching a lot. My cousins in Jamaica, they had these things called sounds. So what they were gigantic DJ sets. And when I say gigantic, the stereo sets themselves would be monolithic. They, as a kid, they look like a skyscraper to me. So back in the day when I used to visit my family in Jamaica, we used to be watching a lot of my cousins and family members DJ a lot. So, but that was back when it was a lot of CDs, still turntables. My dad had a turntable set. It was this big, like hi-fi with massive amounts of dials. Like even now, I can't even say I knew what was going on. But all I know was you take a record, you put it on top of it, you drop the needle, and it played music. So those were my first formative years of understanding what DJing was. I never started DJing until I would want to say 2006. That's when I really started, going to Guitar Center and practicing on their early Pioneer CDJs. Once again, quick little plug for Pioneer. You'll see where I'm going with this. But yeah, just a whole lot of practice for about an hour and a half or so. I had practice at high school for my high school step team. Shout out to OC, LD, OC forever. But it was one of those things where I had a gap to where nothing else I could think of, because Guitar Center was maybe about like 10 minutes away from high school, and all I had to do was double back. And about an hour was spent there every Tuesday and Thursday, all throughout, we'll say my sophomore, junior, kind of stopped around high school because, I don't know, it kind of got a little bit too many people there, I would say. At first when I was there, nobody was there. So at first it was mostly just, your random Brooklyn rappers or, one or two people that might be DJing or looking to buy one of those things, but I was constantly there every 2 days out of the week for a solid 2 years. So From that, I would want to say I kind of started taking a little bit more serious as I started going along after graduating high school into college. I was in a dorm atmosphere, so it was a lot more easier just to say, hey, I'm throwing a party, such and such is going to be here, and I'm Djing. That's it. To put it into numbers, I would want to say, because it's all a blur. Realistically, looking back on it now, it's really all a blur because it was really Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, I kind of technically would be off to go to school. But leading up to Wednesday, there were times I would be DJing on Wednesday as well. So let's just say 4 to 5 times a week, my freshman leading into sophomore year. Definitely sophomore year, I was doing at least four to 5 parties, and house parties and club parties, and it just started developing. So that was a time when around, I would say 19 and 20, I developed my own production company, T. Davidson Productions. It's an LLC. Should change where it's based out of now. But that's the times when I actually started seeing Uncle Sam say, hey, you're actually making money with this. You're gonna need a little bit of chunk of change. So once again, had to file taxes for it. Started having to, draft expenses and contracts. And after a while, it actually became its own little thing where on top of DJing, I was working with other artists on sound engineering. I think for another video, I'll do more in-depth coverage of sound engineering and what it is to produce music. It's not just making your own beats, it's an actual science that goes into the waveforms and mixing and mastering. Whole bunch of stuff that can be left for another video, but just on the bare surfaces, if you're prone to playing a lot of music, you are gonna be prone to making your own music. So I would want to say that I started producing my own music around 2010. That's when I was around 20, and I started to take music a little bit more serious. Not saying that a lot of things went on the back burner, but it started being with such frequency that I eventually ended up in a magazine. I eventually started traveling. I eventually started doing a lot more at a young age. And looking back at it now, it was a very young age. So and it was one of those things where at the time it was a bit much. It was really a bit much, and I had to take a step back and analyze what makes more sense to me. And what came out of it actually was a lot of songwriting, a lot of songs where I was writing about my personal experiences. That was the first thing I realized, that once I started writing songs, that my personal experiences were the best way to go. But at the same time, you always got to keep your sword sharp. You always got to, keep working on your craft. On history of DJing, it was started back in the 70s. I would also want to say earlier than that, because it came from Jamaican toasting, they'll call it. It was where you would have a person on the mic and then a person on the turntables. And just thinking about it, back then, all you really needed was one mic and 2 turntables to get a party or get anything started. So you can go back to the early days of ska, reggae, rock steady music. A lot of the times where you have the songwriter, the singer on the mic, and then the technical DJ in the background playing 2, or just one musical sound consistently, okay? The origins of switching from right to left, and that's one thing I'll bring up here. When I say switching from right to left, that means going from deck 1 to deck 2, or vice versa, deck 1, deck 2, however you want to look at it. Switching is technically using the crossfader. This is a crossfader moving the sound from left to right. So a lot of times you see DJs doing their thing. Even now, when you look at pioneers such as Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, DJ Jazzy Jeff, big influences on my life, but they still use vinyl in terms of going back and forth. Also, DJ Qbert, amazing. But it all comes from the principle of moving from, the left to the right or the right to the left. once you start getting into the habit of doing that, your hand-eye coordination starts to get a little bit more in tune with the music. And I will say one thing, it isn't so much a magic trick, DJing. It really is just analyzing, hearing music in one side of your ear and another side of the ear, which may be on the outside, which may be a monitor speaker playing the music towards you, or headphones where you just typically see headphones, DJ like this. They'll sit there and be listening to the first track on one ear and actually hearing the track that's playing outside. So that's one reason why you end up seeing a lot of DJs like that. They're just trying to get the best mix. A mix in the songs is typically continuing the flow, I'll say. It's not so much like my DJ mixes, you would want to say disjointed, because I technically use every genre possible. Like, I never try to stick with one genre. Most of the time you'll hear a lot of dubstep, EDM music, just to keep like a certain pace going. But in terms of the overall flow, you want to make a set of songs match up to the way that you want to flow and bring essentially your audience on a journey. Every single time you're making a mix, you're making a journey for somebody. So going back to what I have here, and I'm also going to do a drop-down demo of what's going on here as well. But the basics I want you to get to understand is this is your jog wheel. This is another wheel that controls the music moving forward or moving backward with your fingertips. On a turntable, it replicates some of the sounds, but not all the sounds. That's one thing I want to stress, is that when you use electronic devices as opposed to analog devices, which a turntable is, you get different sounds every single time that you move your fingers across the wheels. You have your start and stop button, your cue button. Cueing is every time that you'll hear a DJ pull up a certain part of a song at the right time, if that makes sense. So if you end up doing that and you end up using the cueing system on something like this, you can set these buttons to a drum pattern, to a synth, to different instruments that can, line up loops, everything that you can get. And then you have your tempo knobs over here that move the tempo faster or slower. That also ends up changing the pitch. That's why you hear things that go really down low or things that go up really high. So you have your volumes up and downs. And then you have your EQ systems. When I mean EQ, I say equalizer, meaning that it goes back to the original sound engineering we were talking about earlier. When you have equalizers on a system like this, you can tweak and mess around with the sound profile, I'll say, of the overall music. You have your low end, which is your basses, okay? You have your mid-range. This is, once again, you have your low ends down here that you can cut off and then you don't hear any of that boom, boom, boom sound. In the mid-range, you can turn it up and down. Most people won't hear it, but if you're playing it and you can get it to be in tune with the left or right deck, moving back to mixing, it'll sound as one. The highs are for those really down low sections. If you turn your highs all the way down low, it's the high tinny noises like cymbals and crashes, and then you end up turning your low bass up. That's where you get that, if you're playing floor to floor music, that boom, 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 boom music on a very large speaker, then you'll get a amplification of, I would want to say, sound. So that's one level that you can mess around. That's when you see a lot of DJs mess around with the knobs, that's what they're doing. So the knobs, typically, if they know what they're doing it to make sure the sounds of each track, if they're playing together, are level and as one. Effects are typically just anything that will make the sound, adds color to it, adds a different variation. You can do a lot of different things with looping, with a lot of the ways that DJing is going now. I wouldn't want to say turntablism, which is the art of, using turntables, is a dying art, because there's a lot of people that like old, not saying old records, but like seeing people play vinyl records. So there's always space for it. In terms of me and my personal things with DJing right now, I would want to say that I'm leading everything towards more festivals, more improving my craft to where I can start doing larger crowds. The largest crowd I've done so far, I would want to say at least 5,000. I would want to say 5,000 because before that I was going in increments of I want to DJ for 5 people, then 50 people, then 500 people, then 5,000 people. So that actually happened. So, you know, anything to where we can lead to, I guess, 50,000 people, that's a festival. So, you know, I'm gonna end the video here. I hope I gave you guys enough information towards what it is to DJ, and I'll also put a drop down, like I said from before, in a separate section in this video, just to let you guys know that at the end of the day, it is complex, but it's nothing that nobody can do. You know, it's very easy to get into, but to get into this craft and understand what you're doing, you know, this is just level 1 basic stuff. So I hope you guys have a great day. At the end of the day, I'm gonna have a couple more videos coming out. I think if you guys check out my last video about bills and budgeting, this is leading up to this video, and then the next one's up. I'm probably gonna be doing sound engineering and songwriting. And then after that, we're gonna talk about a little bit of flying. So we'll see what happens next. You guys stay safe. Stay safe, please. Wear a mask, do what you have to do. It's getting really tenuous out there. So, you know, have a good day, stay safe, peace.